recruiting animal here on July 9, 2025. And we've got the great Donna Terrell. Terrell. Donna Terrell is here right from the start of the show. It's almost never that somebody comes before I actually open the show, but for 2 weeks in a row, they are hungry. Hungry for this material. Okay. Marcus Aurelius. Do you know who he is or who he was, Donna? Are you aware? No. I feel on your face. You don't know.
Well, I was once aware and had to teach about him, but now I can't remember enough.
You had to teach about him and you still forgot? What's wrong with you?
What's there? I could go on and on about that.
Let me tell you. Yes. He was the emperor of Rome.
Okay? I know that.
And he's a famous Stoic. He wrote Meditations, and that's one of the holy books of Stoicism. Okay. And he said, every day before you start, he said, remember, before you start your day, that you're going to meet a lot of rude, arrogant, and ungrateful people. Okay. So that's what his advice to the world was. Remind yourself of that before you start work. And then you won't be surprised when you run into that kind of person. And that'll help you maintain your equilibrium, your mental equilibrium. Oh, he's just another jerk, okay? What do you think of that for recruiters? Because recruiters are talking to lots of people all day long. And Richie Rich Rosen, he said a recruiter is not like somebody who's a greeter at a Walmart or a Home Depot. It's someone who pursues people who don't necessarily want to speak to her or him, okay? So he's bound to get a negative reaction from people who are, getting these phone calls or emails out of the blue. And a recruiter should train his or her mind first thing every morning just to brush that off. It doesn't mean anything. Do you think that's a good idea?
Well, I think these are two different things. So, because I think that the quote is just to remember that there's going to be a lot of jerks and that you're going to see a lot of rude people. And then what you were saying is to be prepared to brush things off and not take things personally, which I think are two different things.
No, they're not. That's exactly what
two different things. No, I think they're different.
Why is he telling you, hey, I'm warning you, you're going to meet these bozos out there? Why else would he tell you if it wasn't to prepare? The thing is, he says prepare every day. Okay, make it a ritual to prepare every day, which is a great idea, in my humble opinion. I don't know why you disagree. I don't know how you can disagree. Go ahead.
You're not letting me tell you how.
Tell me.
Because I think that my natural tendency is to expect the worst. But I don't know that that's all. I don't know that that's always the best mindset. To have an awareness that sometimes people are going to be rude and to brush it off, sure. But I don't want to start my day being like, I'm going to meet a bunch of jerks today either. Having an awareness that people are going to act a certain way is one thing, but
okay, here. I was kind of thinking that you're a goody-goody, but I forgot you were an elementary school teacher. So you must have gone in every morning, figure hey, I'm going to meet some troublemakers today. Even the kids who are sometimes usually nice, they're going to act up.
Yeah, I mean, I think
is that your advantage? Is that why you can brush this off as nothing, a non-issue?
Well, here's the thing. I don't ascribe it to someone's character, just like with a kid. If I have an expectation that children will lie, not because I think children are all liars and I think they're horrible people, but I don't get all upset if I say, did you do this? And they say, no. And they did because you watched them. So I think it's the same kind of thing. Like people are going to be rude and they're going to be rushed, but it's not because they're necessarily a jerk. Like, I don't think I'm a jerk, but if somebody calls me at an inconvenient time and I don't want to talk to them, I don't go out of my way to make sure their feelings aren't hurt. I'm going to hang up.
You just don't like the terminology I'm using. Okay.
Okay. Maybe I don't.
Off. I don't know what's wrong with you today. Why you're not agreeing with me. Okay.
Because I do think mindset's important and I don't want to go into my day thinking that everybody's a jerk. That's my natural tendency anyway.
Richie Rich Rosen, America's recruiter. He says, and if he shows up today, I'll also let him verify it. He says that the first reaction people have to you is if you're a sales rep, he's not the only one who says this. They get on the defensive. They know you want something from them. And people don't like saying no because it's conflict, right? So that actually they get even more negative and they're going to push you away. And so he says, they say no before you've got, hey, I'm a recruiter. I got a position I'd like to talk to you about. No, I'm happy where I am. It's just a reaction. It doesn't mean anything. It's a defensive reaction. That's his claim. Okay. And so he sort of just brushes it off. He keeps talking. He acts like it didn't even happen. Okay. So he's trained himself to meet those things, and he interprets them a specific way. It's like, I can just shrug that off. Is that not similar to what Marcus Aurelius said?
Well, I'd have to read the real quote, but you were saying that you're going to meet, because you were saying you're going to meet jerks. So my problem is I don't want to think that person who's brushing me off is a jerk, because that's my natural tendency. And when you start thinking,
that's the thing I said. She doesn't like labeling people with a global definition.
I don't like it for what it does to me.
Person. Yeah, we heard about that. Yeah, okay. It could be a nice person on having a bad day, okay?
Or just having a regular day. But I don't know.
You know what?
I know that I am not nice to salespeople. Like, I don't go out of my way to make them feel good, especially if they interrupt me. You know, I'm probably just going to hang up on them.
Yeah, okay. So, but I got your point. Yeah, don't repeat it 5 times, okay?
Well, don't argue 5 times.
Okay, well, this guy did a poll. A recruiter did a poll on X.com. He said, what matters most when choosing your next role? He didn't say job, but that's what it means, okay? And he gave 4 options: the company brand and reputation, the team and the direct manager, so the people you're going to work with. Number 3, the skills you'll develop. And number 4, the compensation package. So there's the company reputation, the people you're going to work with, the skills you can develop, and the compensation package. Of those 4, which is the most important? Do you want me to tell you first which one I chose?
Are you choosing it for you or just globally for anybody, anytime?
You know, that's a fair question. Very subtle. Okay. You can do one for each. You do it for yourself or do it for what you think most people do. I was asking about most people. Okay.
Oh, okay. Most people is probably the team and the manager, but for me in my life right now and my age right now, compensation. Like,
that's what I said.
I need the money. I need the money right now.
Yeah, I need the money. Making the money. I had a boss who talked like that. You got to make it the money, okay? He was good. He was a smart guy. Sometimes if I do an accent, people think I'm a bad person. I'm not a bad person, okay?
Okay.
Maybe I am sometimes, just like Donna. Okay.
Sometimes.
Okay. So I said compensation. I said it's not like the other things don't count, but I said that's sort of the key deal breaker, compensation.
But it does matter. Like, if I were back in education, obviously it wouldn't be compensation because that's not negotiable anyway. And then it would definitely be team and manager.
I think, though, I got to tell you, team, if there's an issue there, I've said it before, you can join because you really like the team, especially the manager, but you don't know how long they're going to stay once you join but I'm going to say that's probably a huge factor. In many ways, more important than money is if you're for the joy that you have in your life. Okay.
Yep.
If you're with a bunch of pricks every day. Sorry, I said a bad word. If you're with a bunch of nice people every day, boy, that takes a lot of pleasure out of living. Okay.
It's really hard. Yeah. But again, like, it depends on your age. It depends on where you are. I could see a time in life when the skill development could be really important. You know, like if you're just starting out in your career, and there's certain things you have to develop. So I definitely think that's one of those.
Okay, I've got the point. Okay.
Well, one of them was irrelevant. What was the first one?
Company reputation.
Oh yeah. Whatever.
You know what? It's a funny one. They said brand. So brand, what, their employment brand or their consumer brand? He didn't say. That's important. Okay.
Maybe if you were sales, that might be important. If you were sales.
No. Employment brand. If it's employment brand, it covers all the issues. Okay. It's a package issue, so it will be disqualified. I'll agree with you. I'm moving on. Okay.
Moving on. That's fine. That's your show.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, that's not true. These shows are a team effort. Okay, come on. And I try to make that clear in every posting. I put everybody's picture there, so you have an opportunity to complain. And Tom complains they don't like the pictures I put up.
Neither Tom or I. We are the most unphotogenic people.
That's
I
not
think on the
true. I
planet.
put up terrific pictures of you.
We
okay?
both. The last one I saw of Tom, I was like, "Oh, bless him. He got my treatment."
That was a good one. Okay.
Really?
Okay.
That's what you're gonna put for me now.
You know what? But they say put up a picture that's going to attract attention, and that one did. Okay. So here's the thing. Next one, you do a reference check. You call the person's an old manager. Okay. And this is real. I got this out of the New York Times. Okay.
Okay.
And so now I know some of the audience, if anyone actually listens, is going to say,
Vast audience.
I don't trust the New York Times, but I do. This is real. Someone wrote it. Okay. So you ask the manager, is there anything about, this person, my candidate, that really bugged you? And so here's what happened. The former manager said, well, he had a habit of undoing the middle button of his shirt and playing with his chest hair. And I found this absolutely repulsive.
Okay.
Like Napoleon, I guess. Okay. So what would you do? Would that affect your judgment of the candidate if that's what answer you got? To me, it's irrelevant. It's a laugh. That's all. It doesn't mean
if
anything.
I'm doing that as HR, then no, like that's not a red flag for HR. If I were like a random hiring manager who learned that, I guess it would depend on if that was a pet peeve or something. Like if I thought it would gross me out, I don't know.
Or less, okay. So
I don't know. Like I suppose it matters. Like
you're blabbing. Well, you already agreed with me. It's not an issue. Okay.
I don't know if I had to work with them in close proximity and see them like.
Guy's got his hand in his shirt, scratching his chest. Who cares?
I don't know. I might. I don't know. I've never experienced that.
Like he got his finger up his nose. Okay.
That would be bad.
I was playing cards with somebody who started picking his nose and then touching the cards. I said, don't do that. It's unbelievable what some people do, okay? But this guy wasn't doing that, okay?
So what was the verdict in the article?
The article worded a different way. She was writing in to the ethics teacher, the advice guy, what should I do, okay?
Oh.
So she wasn't sure, okay? Okay, here's well, what should the manager have told the guy if she had to work with him every day and she found it disgusting? She should have said, look, I don't like this.
Please stop playing with your hair.
You think so? She should have. She should have.
Why not?
The manager has to, who knows what he was doing with his finger in there, okay? But don't put your finger in your shirt, okay?
I would say people to people you could do that. You know what I'm saying? Like if you were doing something really gross, I think I would tell you. I'd be like, "Animal, please." That's
if you were scratching your chest, okay, just
like constantly. I mean,
who cares? I wouldn't say anything.
If it bugged me,
if I said, "Donna, don't scratch your chest when you're working with me," and I might think your husband is going to show up the next day and beat me up, okay?
To a bloody pulp.
Okay. So anyway, here's another one. Okay, should you hire someone who is not wowed by the job? We had a similar issue a few weeks ago. Okay. And this guy said, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. Well, I don't agree with that. I mean, there's lots of jobs. No one's going to be really enthusiastic about them. They do them because they have to earn a living. Okay. And if they're going to do a good job, who cares if they really like it or not?
Yeah. It depends. I know you don't like that answer, but it depends.
No, I don't like it. Look,
I know.
How's that helping anybody?
Because you have to let people clarify. I don't think you have to be completely wowed, and I think personalities, even Linda, some people never seem wowed. But if you know somebody is actively disappointed, and yet they're going to take it anyway, a lot of times it doesn't work out really well.
Oh, okay.
We've had that. No, we've had that. Like especially with salary, like. They really don't want to take the salary that you're offering, but they're like, but you've already made the offer. So I don't know. That's a tough one.
Okay. That's an interesting thing. But when this question came up, I wasn't think they were talking about compensation. They were talking about the job itself. Let me ask, so those people or that person who wasn't crazy about the salary, did he or she really like the job? Were they enthusiastic about the job itself?
Seemed awesome with the job. but resigned after 3.5 months.
Okay, if they're not happy with the salary, don't hire them. That's Donna's lesson, and I think it's not a bad one at all. Okay, that's a good lesson. Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
I give you what you deserve. Okay. There was a guy a few weeks ago. We talked about it. The candidate that got an offer right away. One interview. Okay. I don't know if you remember that one. If you were here.
I think I was.
And but then she said she needed some time because she was doing two other companies. She was interviewing with them.
Yeah,
and
we
she
talked
wanted
about
to
that.
see what happened with them. And the employer wanted to pull the offer because she wasn't sold on the company.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, so I think everybody said no. That would be the wrong thing to do. Let her see if she. In fact, I remember now.
We had a big discussion about it.
Dominic said, let her go and see those other two companies. If she's not satisfied with them, that means she really is going to be satisfied with you. That's going to be the test to see if she really likes the job. I thought that was a wise thing. Young Dominic said, okay? He's an old young man.
Is
okay?
he young? I don't know.
He looks like he's around 32.
You think? Well, I shouldn't say anything. I think he looks older than that, but he may not like that. So
He's got very young kids. Okay, we can ask him. He wouldn't.
I would have I'm not gonna say what I would put him.
Okay, you thought he was 40. Okay, fine. Okay, this one is an odd one. Okay, like I love this kind of stuff, but I don't think a lot of people are going to like it. So I'll share it. If it doesn't go anywhere, I can cut it out. Okay. Jesse Itzler, I've become a fan of his recently, and he reminds me very much of a big billing recruiter who I was friends with. I haven't seen him for a while, but we used to go for coffee all the time. And anyway, this is called The Secret to Endurance. Jesse said he's been running almost every day for 35 years. But not only that, he goes in these cross-country runs for 100 miles.
Yeah, I have a friend who
I
does
might
that.
have mentioned that before. Okay. 100-mile runs. That's a lot. And okay. Oh, and I think last week I told dial into the meeting instead. No. Donna, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, it's showing me that my network connection is trying to reconnect, but I never disconnected, right?
I've got you here. I don't know.
Oh, good. Then again, I am a fan now of Jesse Itzler, okay? He runs every day for 35 years already, but he also significantly runs these 100-mile races. He recently did the Hennepin 100.
My friend just did the Hennepin 100.
That's in Minnesota, right?
He
It's
did
in
it last year.
Minneapolis or something like
I don't
that?
remember what state it is, but he just did it. He about killed him.
I
Go
can't
ahead.
drive that
Okay,
far without
so-
stopping to use the restroom, let alone run it.
Well, here's
They
the
do
thing.
stop and pee.
No, but here's the point, Tom. He says the way he does it is he runs 6 minutes, then he walks 4 minutes, right? And he said he did the whole thing in 24 hours, and he came in at 51st out of 200 runners. And he had no injuries, no burnout, just forward motion. And he says he uses this staggered progress principle for everything. So I was wondering if, let's say you have 100 cold calls to make, or Donna once told me she sometimes had a 200 to make on.
No, I
on a
didn't
week.
say 200.
Okay, 100. You certainly said that. Okay.
Yeah, 80
And-
was the average.
Okay, 80. That's a lot. Okay. But
Yeah.
the thing is, if you don't feel like it, you could stagger them, right? You could do 5 and then do something else for an equal amount of time. Has anybody?
I would always chunk. Yeah, I chunk things all the time. Put things
Yeah?
in chunks. Yeah,
for cold calling. So do you chunk cold calls?
I
So
did.
what do you do in the break
Um,
time? Just to have a little rest or read the news or what?
Read the news.
No, that's what I would do.
That would just give me more stress. I don't want to be more stressed. Probably get I think, gosh, because I don't work that way anymore. But I think I usually got up and walked. I think is what I usually did.
Oh,
I
so
think
you
I walked.
you got away from work.
Yeah.
You took some leisure time. Okay, right. You didn't just.
I
do
was
some
getting
other-
ready for the Hennepin.
Okay, the Hennepin 500 cold calls. Tommy Pistachio Elascio, what do you think of that method?
That's. I mean, if I was
He's
gonna,
not impressed. He's not impressed.
if I was gonna run, that's. I mean, that's. It's.
We're not talking about running, okay?
What are we talking about?
Making cold calls on the same staggered progress principle.
Oh yeah,
And Donna-
I tell people to do that all the time. Yeah, absolutely.
Can you bring your face into the screen so I can at least get some funny pictures of you? Donna says,
It took my friend, I just texted him. He said too long. It took him 29 hours. It was a rough race for him.
that's not bad. 100 miles.
Oh, I was very disappointed in him. 29 hours.
Okay. So Tommy,
29
who do you tell?
hours.
He was hoping for under 24. That's what he had trained for, but he hit a couple of walls. I think
Ask
literally
him
and
if he knows,
figuratively.
ask him if he knows Jesse Itzler. Itzler.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Tom, do these young recruiters, so they call you up and say, Tommy, give me some advice. I don't like making all these calls. And then you tell them this method? So is that when
Basically,
you tell
I say, the first thing is the first call of the day should be a good call, right? If you have call reluctance or fear of cold calling,
what do you
make
mean
your
it could be a good call? What does that mean?
A candidate you like talking to, a client you like talking to, writing a job order, closing the deal, anything that's positive, right? Try to make your first call positive.
I got to say something right now. I agree with this
Hmm.
guy because there's so many people who say the exact opposite thing. Make all the hard calls first. No, slide into it, okay? Make it easy, okay?
Very first call, make it a positive, that way you're kind of like, okay, that was good. You hang up the phone.
You're
now
priming the pump. You're priming the
Oh,
pump.
so have a good mindset starting your day, Animal. Is that what we're talking about?
Okay.
then
She's coming after me now. Tommy, wait. Tommy, Marcus Aurelius said, you're going to get on the phone in the morning and you're going to, during the whole day, you're going to meet a lot of crappy people, arrogant, rude, bossy. He said you should remind yourself every day before you start that's what you don't, so you're not surprised. You're going to meet a lot of people like that.
did you
And
say
if you're
Marcus
prepared-
Aurelius?
If you're
He's a Roman emperor. They didn't have phones back then.
yeah. Okay. He said if
He
you're
gave
prepared,
recruiting advice.
if you're prepared to meet people like that, then you're not gonna. It's easier to shrug it off, right?
Well, what I tell people is that every call's gonna be like, there's only gonna say certain things, right? Nobody's gonna say I want pepperoni on my pizza. So be prepared for what you're going to experience. You're going to experience what everyone in the last 100 years of cold calling has experienced. So be prepared for that and break your calls up in blocks of 10, right? Take a break, pet the dog, kick the cat, smoke a cigarette, whatever it is, right? Then go back and make your 10. And what happens is, as you're doing this in blocks of 10, you're going to get into a rhythm, and all of a sudden you'll get 7 or 8 really good calls in a row. You won't take that break. You'll make your next 10 and your next 10. That's how you get into that rhythm.
Donna, did he advise people to smoke
I
in
don't think so.
2025?
I don't think he
Take a
I
smoke.
advise him to smoke, walk the dog, and kick the cat.
Okay.
I think if you already smoke, I don't think he's encouraging you to pick up the
Take a
habit.
break. Take a break. Go talk to your
Breaks
wife.
are super important.
Walk outside. Smoke a cigarette. Play on the internet for 5 minutes. Do a
Scratch your
5-minute
chest
break.
hair. Put your
And
hand in your
Scratch your
shirt.
chest hair. Then
Scratch
go
your
back
chest hair.
and make your 10 calls.
Oh, Tommy
But
saw
also
that
be
one.
prepared. Preparation is the something of something.
Psychological
Something.
prep.
That's huge.
Psychological prep. Is that what you're saying, Tom?
Both.
I think the physical prep is what's really important. Having the plan.
Those who plan, those who fail to plan to fail.
Okay.
Preparation. There's a quote. Preparation is the something of something.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
right.
Yes. I think Marcus Aurelius said that.
Yeah, the preparation is a something of something. But I reminded Donna, and you reminded me of something else today. Just on Richie Rich Rosen says when you make your presentation, lots of people have a reflexive no. They're trying to protect themselves from you. They're just going to say no, right? And he says, I don't pay any attention to that. I don't let it bother me. I just keep talking. Okay. So he's prepared himself for that. Now, he probably doesn't tell himself every morning like Marcus Aurelius said he should, but he has psychologically prepared himself for rejection and to ignore it or not to be bothered by it at all. I don't know if it's really just. Anyway, Tommy, anything else you want to add to that? No,
just like I 100% agree.
But what about, you saw the one where you're doing a reference check and the past manager says he opened his button on his shirt and he used to scratch his chest all the time.
That one kind of blew my mind. I was like, it was enough internet for me today. So it was like,
Okay, but
What if it was a woman? Would that make it better?
either like so I can't even. He opened up his chest, his shirt, and started messing
No, he
with his
didn't
chest
open
hair.
it up. He was like this, like Napoleon. Okay, who
But
cares?
the button's unbuttoned, so
Yeah, but okay, who cares? And even if it was a woman, who cares? Okay. Would that influence your judgment of the candidate? I would never even mention it.
As a recruiter, I'm going to tell the candidate, "Hey, man, I checked your references, and what the fuck is with you and your chest hair?" Right? That's the first thing I would say. What the hell is that, right? And then I said, "Don't do that in the interview, and don't use that person as a reference check."
Really?
That's hilarious.
Okay, you know what? Yeah. Well, I usually
Animal's not grossed out by it. He's welcome. He's open.
Reference checks in my world come after the interviews when they actually like the candidate. I know some people do them before, so I wouldn't have to tell the candidate, "Hey, don't do this thing with your scratching your chest." Okay?
I don't check references generally, and I haven't in a very long time. But if a client does, it's usually when we're ready to make an offer.
Yeah. Okay. David and Mar, you want a question, or do you want to just be quiet?
Regarding reference checks, or you mean in general?
If you call a reference, the past manager, and she says, "Look, Betty had a habit of opening a button on her shirt and sticking her fingers in there and picking her bra." Okay, are you gonna? Is that gonna bias you against the candidate? I said it shouldn't.
I mean, if it's something that's coachable, no. But if it's something that could lead to potential problems, I would make the data.
How is that going to lead to problems? So first of all, it was a man, but Donna gave me a valid example. What if it's a woman? I don't care.
Okay, so this is not an issue as a recruiter, but this is not something that you want the employer to hear in a reference check.
Okay.
That's the issue. This is not an issue in general, but this is something you don't want to have an employer hear in a reference check.
There's one reason I would agree with you, that because the manager said she found it repulsive. Okay, but it isn't repulsive. The guy, it wasn't opening his shirt; he was just sticking his hand in there.
Okay, here's the thing: the fact that someone thought to say that on a reference check is the issue. The issue is this person does it at such a consistent rate all the time that this person remembered it about this person and thought to say it in a reference check.
And
that's
it's
what I want you to think
person
about.
that the candidate chose to list that they're
No,
going
no,
to
no.
say
I
these
used to
great
just call the
things.
managers all the time without.
Oh, you think it's just a random manager?
Well, it's a manager.
Well, even if it doesn't matter. It doesn't.
Okay.
The fact that this person
Did it enough?
that was something worth mentioning in a reference check is the problem.
Okay, Tom, let me give you a different example. What if the person liked to roll the quarters along his knuckles while you're having a conversation?
If that is something that reference check said because he did it all the time and it was that distracting, that is a problem.
Okay.
I do a lot of weird shit. People aren't going to remember all the weird shit I do. But if I did the same weird shit every single day, every time you meet me, right? I stick my finger in my ear, smack myself in the forehead and go, I wish I had a V8 every fucking time I saw you. And you mentioned that in a reference check. That's a problem.
Okay. My neighbor's wife is a recruiter. Okay. This is, she admitted
I
to
hate
me.
this guy too.
She admitted to me that she doesn't respond to candidates' follow-up emails because they don't affect her interests at all. Now, that was at first confusing to me because I thought, well, okay, this candidate's been out to an interview, and if the person struck out, she doesn't answer their emails. But I don't think that's what it meant. It meant for applicants. If an applicant sends in a resume and then sends a follow-up email to inquire, she says, I'm not going to spend all my time replying. Now, this is a good one for Donna, because Donna is overwhelmed by applicants.
I am overwhelmed by applicants. You're not wrong.
What's your story?
I got over 1,000 I've got to respond to, soon. But I do.
Respond to every person that applies to a job?
Well, thankfully, it's somewhat automated, but I still have to choose which response to send them. And it takes forever, and I hate it, and I hate it so much. You have no idea how much I hate it. But I do it because I think people deserve it. Now, some people don't, but you don't know who's who. Some people.
Is there anything wrong with saying thank you for we've received your resume? Thank you for applying to operator job, right? If we'll reach back out to you if we're moving forward. Thank you very much for your consideration. Do you not send
That
that
would
as a form?
that would be awesome. Right now, something does go out, but it doesn't say that, and we're actually walking through changing templates. That's what the template needs to say, so we don't have to feel like we've got to respond to
Yeah,
everyone.
mine says, thank you for applying to, and then it has an operator that chooses the job they apply to.
Yeah.
Thank you for applying to X job. We received your resume, and if you're going to be selected or something, we'll contact you. And if we have any other opportunities to fit your background, we will also reach out. Have a wonderful day, Tom.
The best
Yeah.
one I've seen says something along those lines, but it makes reference to, due to the economy and interest in our company, we get a lot of applicants, and
That's a great one
we'll
too. Yeah.
typically respond back within 2 weeks if there's
And I don't want that.
interest in your background. Well, I'm just saying, but they say
Yeah.
basically
I don't
they're
want
putting
any
it-
time frame though,
well,
because
they're
I
putting it in
can't.
there. They're putting it in there so this way, if somebody doesn't hear back in 2 weeks, they know that they're most likely out, and that.
But
they
I
just
can't
need-
even say that realistically because I can't always get through all those applications and do my headhunting in 2 weeks. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. I hate it.
Well, then maybe
Have I
so-
mentioned I hate it? I hate it.
Maybe you'll get a response typically within 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, I like
whatever that
everything you
timeframe
said
is
except
you.
for that. I don't want to ever give them a time period. I much prefer, hey, if we're interested, you'll hear back from us someday. Someday, because it might even be for another role. It might be for something else.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
like
Like for the
everything
specific
but the
role
timeframe.
for the specific role that they apply to, you would most likely get back to them within 2 weeks. Would you not agree with that?
I would not agree with that
3
right
weeks.
now because my
Here's what
experience
mine
is
says.
too high. It's too
Thank
high.
you for your resume submission to JobLink. Well, we will contact you if you will be moving forward in the process, or if other opportunities open up in your field. Thank you and have a great day. That's
Yeah.
it.
Right, I like that.
And then
I like
that
that
way,
better.
there's no time frame on it. They see that, oh, they got
You
my
know you
resume, but I
received
will
it,
tell you,
right.
they know it's a form, right? So
Sure.
using something like JobIn automations with their ChatGPT, where it says something like, grab this person's information and make up something that says thank you. So it's like an icebreaker or whatever. They tend to like a little better. So
But I'm okay with them knowing it's a form
Animal's
letter.
getting pissed. He's counting his chest hairs.
Yeah, okay, you're going on too long with this, okay? Okay. This is from the Random Recruiter, his own personal history. I interviewed for my current company when I got out of college, but I went to the New York City branch and they rejected me, okay? Then I went to interview at the New Jersey branch and they hired me, and I became the second highest biller in the company's history. Okay. So what does that tell you about recruiters? They rejected a guy who was a superstar, who became a superstar when he was hired in the same company, in the same job somewhere else. What does that tell you? Recruiters reject good candidates. Anybody want to agree with me on that?
Everybody rejects good candidates sometimes.
I mean, there's always
No
someone
one's
better.
This guy was number 2 in the company eventually. They didn't recognize his talent.
Who is
Okay?
he? Who is he? Who is
The
the
red-
random recruiter?
I don't know his identity. Okay.
Like, I don't believe him.
Well, here's his. He has a little addendum there. He says, everyone who interviewed me in that New York branch. either
Oh, I'm
quit-
reading it right now. Oh, I definitely don't believe him.
They either quit or got fired. So he
Yeah.
said in that branch, they were lousy. Okay. Sometimes you're going to get a recruiter who doesn't recognize your talent. Now, the thing I would give the benefit of the recruiter, he was fresh out of school. He didn't have a track record. Okay. But do you think, Tommy, you would recognize talent in somebody like that just from their way they were answering your questions and their personality? I would. As a recruiter, wake up. No, that's a no.
There's
That's a
there's no way to really tell. We look for someone who's outgoing. That when they're rookies, that's it. That's the only thing we look for. Are you super outgoing and will you get on the phone? Right. That was all we ever looked for. So I can't.
Donna. Okay, thank you, Donna.
I don't know. I haven't hired recruiters yet, so it's all
Well, you talked
theoretical for me.
You went on and on about your two sons. You said one would be a good
Yeah.
recruiter, one wouldn't.
That's what I
okay?
think, but I
Yeah,
haven't
high
proven
school
it.
students,
You know
okay?
what I think, but I don't know if I'm right. I'll argue when I know I'm right.
Would
I don't
you
know if I'm
hire
right.
the son that you said would be a good recruiter?
Yeah,
he has
I
no
have.
track record, okay? And
He
he's
would-
not your kid. He's just a person like that. And you interviewed him. You don't
He
put
could
me-
be
keep pointing
good.
your hands at me.
Listen, he could be good. I think you can identify skills, but or potential for skills, but you can't identify necessarily work ethic and how they're going to really fit in. And that would be even with my own son, that would be my biggest concern for him. But I know he has the skills to do it. I don't know
Okay.
if he had the drive or would want to.
Yeah, Dave, do you want in on this? You don't have to. You can stay mute. But would you recognize talent in a recruiter who hasn't had a job yet?
I think there's definitely certain traits that would help make someone successful that I've identified in people that I thought would make great recruiters. Like when I was an agency that I helped transition into recruiters. So I see potential in people, but as far as like, I think it boils down to, are they a good recruiter if they have good managers and, they're given a fair shot?
It's really what it comes down to is stick to the training. Fail our way first, right? That's the only thing that really matters.
It's only going to work for someone who's suitable. It's not going to work for everybody, okay?
What is it?
The training, what you said.
Bullshit.
If
Fail
you
our
have
way
somebody with
first.
potential to be a recruiter,
Tommy, I can use your own argument against you. I look for someone who's outgoing and will work on the phone. Then
Yes, but they still have to stick to the training. They still have to stick to the training. That's the only thing that matters.
That's before training, okay? Look how upset you're making me.
you've
Okay.
been pretty mellow lately, Animal. What's going on?
At least he's off my back now. Before you guys were on, it was all my fault.
Okay. Let me see. Okay. Sales lessons from a hot dog eater. Rich is churning out those. He's got his copywriter
He needs to
churning
stop.
out those articles. Okay. This one I thought was pretty
I miss
cool.
the old Rich.
Well, it's still Rich. You mean on LinkedIn? I never
Yes.
saw anything. of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But you know what, Donna? He's got this guy churning it. People love it.
Do they love it?
Yep, that's
It
what-
just doesn't
Hey,
sound like
I
Rich's
loved
voice.
his New York City post. That was yesterday or day. I don't know when it went out.
his New York City post. I've got that here too. But it was like that was the threat one where, oh yeah, he said, if I send you a candidate and you take 3 weeks to decide if you want to see him, he's not going to be around anymore, and neither will I. Yeah, and he was talking about, oh, I was in New York. Everything moves fast there, but I've got a client who has a commission to study whether they should interview this person.
You
And
know
it
what I
takes
don't
3
like
weeks.
about Richie Rich's post that the copywriter's writing? When he gets to the point, that's Rich. But all the stuff before to make the connections and set the context, that's not Rich.
You're right. It's that guy. But you know what? It's working for him.
It's
Rich-
working for him.
Sorry if I do what works. That's what Rich says. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean he knows what he's doing.
Okay. Yeah. Rich had, what was the one for the hot dog? Joey something or other does breath control. Oh yeah, Joey Chestnut eats 60 hot dogs every 4th of July. Okay, but recruiters can learn from him because he does a lot of preparation, breath control, jaw strengthening, and stomach expansion drills. Right? Okay, and so should you. Okay, don't you have? If you're going to be a recruiter, you have to be like Joey.
Yeah.
I
Blah,
don't
blah,
like
blah.
saying- Yeah, Joey. Screw Joey. Okay. What did you like about the New York one, Tommy, before I move on?
That was it. Just how it was. We got to move fast, right? People aren't going to be around in 3 weeks, right? And how New York is. I like that. I just liked it. It just resonated with me. That was all.
Okay. Dominic is
Time
here.
kills all deals.
I mentioned, I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I said something about Dominic earlier on in the show. I said he's an old young guy. Okay. I said he's an old young guy because he gave us some, who's here? Okay. Dominic's a note taker. Okay. So, but Dominic said, remember, should I tell you the story, Dominic? You can nod your head while you're drinking, if you or no, I can understand those motions. Remember that guy said, the candidate went out to the interview with one interview. They loved her. They came back with an offer. She said, "I've got 2 other companies to go to, so I don't want to answer that right away." And the employer was upset. "She's not sold on our company. I want to withdraw the offer." And you said, "No, tell her to go to those companies and see how they compare," right? And that's going to either really sell her on the job or not. Do you remember that, Dominic? No, I can see in his face he doesn't remember. Are you listening? Can you hear me? No.
He's
No.
on mute. He's on mute.
Yeah, no. So again, and like Tom says, and everyone, it all depends on the situation. But yeah, why not check it out? And if this is the right fit for you, it's the right fit. You know, we're not transactional here. So
You're spoiling my little story. Okay. I said I
Sorry.
thought that was a wise thing to say. I didn't think of it. And I said, Dominic is an old young man, because he's got the wisdom. Okay. And then we had a question about how young you are. Okay. That was the thing.
39.
Whoa! Gee whiz. I never would have guessed. I said 33 tops. 33.
I don't know
tops.
either. You know what? My wife has to tell me how old I am, because, you know, in hockey, you might know this, animal being in Canada, you just say your birth year. I'm an 86 birth year.
No, I didn't know that. Okay.
That's so
I tell
funny.
people I'm almost whatever the oldest age I could get to. So right now I'm almost 60. Right? I used to always say I'm almost 50. I'm almost 40.
I thought you
Now
just
I'm almost
turned
60.
50. You just turned 50 a little while ago, right?
But no, 56.
Oh, wow. You look great. Okay.
Thank
I used to always do that too. I always do the next one, and it drives my friends crazy. They're like, "You're not almost." I'm like, "Oh, feels like it." It's the
Oh.
next one.
Okay.
Yeah, they turned 41. I'm almost 50 because I look great for almost 50.
Right? I'm almost. Yeah, I'm like you. I'm almost 60. We're right there.
Okay. This is coming back to Joey Chestnut, the hot dog eater. No, it's from Rich again, from the copywriter. He said, I can't remember the made up story that Donna said this guy does, but he said most candidates don't prepare for interviews. The top candidates do. They'll read a lot about the company and rehearse their answers in advance. They don't wing it. He says, but lots of candidates show up knowing next to nothing about the employer, and they don't get the jobs. Is that true?
In tech, that's 100% true. If you don't prepare, you fail.
Okay, but do most candidates not prepare, Dave?
I would say that it's about 50-50.
Okay, how can a recruiter let somebody go in there without preparing? Okay, now I know Tom doesn't
But
like
you
that.
can't make anybody. I mean,
Prepare
all the
is
best recruiters
relative.
recommend
right?
that people prepare. They have like notes and things that you send to the candidate. Hey, this is what you should do. Blah blah blah. You give them all the links. You basically do all the heavy lifting for them. But if they have their kids baseball and whatever, and they have a quick turnaround in the interview, they may not even have a chance to wing it until right beforehand, and they may look at 2 things and that's it.
Okay,
And the thing is, too, the candidate, if is excited about the company and the candidate's excited about the opportunity, and the first interview was great, the first phone interview or whatever, they're going to research the company, right? If they don't, then they're an idiot and I screwed up somewhere, right? No candidate is going to go on a phone interview and be like, man, that was awesome, and then never look up anything
Rich
about
said they're not going to get a second interview unless they are prepared and they do it before they go in. Okay. Rich said there's no second interview unless you do that research in advance. Can you hear me? What is it? All these people today.
I mean,
They're
so
just
you're
giving
saying that the
blank
candidate
stare.
should have been.
I'm
See, I
working.
disagree. Because sometimes you have a recruited candidate who's not 100%. He's like, well, maybe let me see, and then they talk to my client, and my client spends half the time selling the company, selling the opportunity, and then the candidate gets off the phone and calls me and goes, man, that went great. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in moving forward. Then they're going to do the research. I don't expect a recruited candidate to do a ton of research, especially if I got to drag him kicking and screaming to the first interview.
Okay, that's an interesting thing. If you are getting a passive candidate who isn't looking for a job, you can't dump a lot of work on him, just like Dave said, and expect him to do it, because I'm happy where I am. You're lucky you're getting the person to go out and take a look. But that raises another issue, Tommy, getting the employer to sell the job.
Yep, I was just going to say
that's
that.
what
Half
the
the
employers
time-
have to fucking do in this market.
Half the time, I've had a lot of candidates that I got excited about a role, only to go in and it was like, like a weak limp noodle they were talking to. It was like the worst conversations.
A wet noodle. Yeah, I have a friend that's what he used to call those people.
Yeah, I
wet
mean,
noodles.
Again, that's why passive candidates, you got to prep your employer and be like, look, he wasn't looking. We got him. He's willing to have a conversation with you. So you need to do the college try. I got told by Charlie, one of my hiring managers, is, dude, why are you telling me that? You know, I do that every single time. You know, when I get them on the phone, I sell them and they'll want to come work for us. What are you telling me that for? I go, I was just reminding me. He goes, you don't have to fucking
Marcus
remind me.
Aurelius, there we go. He says every day you got to say the same thing, even if you know it already. Okay, there you go. Dominic, you want in on this conversation, or are you busy with something else? Okay, you got to. I'm just giving you a chance. Now that I know you're an old man, I have to take care of you. Okay.
I'll just listen on this one. Sorry, I'm looking at something.
Okay, no problem. Donna, do you have something you'd like to say?
Yeah, that I gotta go. But it's been
Donna,
lovely.
it's so nice having you.
See you later.
You
Bye.
know what? When Donna first came, she used to have bangs. Okay. Talk to you later, Donna. Okay, let me see. How much time do we have? We got a few minutes. Everybody still want a few more? Okay. Okay, here's more from Rich. I don't know if he writes these or or he gives the guy the information, but his sales tips from America's Recruiter. Number 1 is start early. Why? How early? Does anybody agree with that? Start early? Get on the phone early? Does that make a
I think you
difference?
should start your days early, 100%, because your early bird gets the worm. And if you're up and ready and you're prepared, you're going to have the opportunities that other people won't.
What do you mean? Give me a specific, and I'll give you my specific.
You
wake up, you want to have a nice coffee, do a little reading of the newspaper.
get up early, right? When the birds get up.
Early bird gets the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese,
Exactly.
motherfucker.
Okay, Dave, give us your real example.
You miss out on opportunities in time, basically.
How?
Because by starting later, you may miss somebody's window that was available to talk to you earlier. A lot of the high-level executives, depending upon who you're calling on, they start their days early. They may you may be able to catch them like while they're working out.
This is what you're saying. You have a better chance of reaching people if you start early. Is that your claim?
People and be able to take advantage of the opportunities and be more prepared for your day.
Okay, you can't speak in generalities here. Okay, that's why I'm trying to help you. Okay, but here's the thing: you get up in the morning. This is how I would think of Tom. You get up in the morning, you don't, but you go for a run, let's say, or do a little workout. Then you sit down with your newspaper and a coffee, and then you feel great by 10 o'clock or 9:30 when you come to your desk. But does anybody agree with that? Of easy, and then you make, like Tom said, make one of the calls. It's a fun call, okay? That's going to build your confidence. Anybody like that scenario?
As much as I was making fun of Dave Marr with the second mouse gets the cheese, there's something to be said about, but you have to be a morning person. I'm not a morning person, right? So I would be miserable getting up at 6 doing it, right? But for me, I also work a lot of stuff on the West Coast. So I'm still there. I'm still pounding the phones. I'm still doing the right things I need to do. And a lot of times when it comes to hiring managers, the best time to get a hold of them is after 5 p.m., right? Because they've relaxed a little bit and they're doing stuff. So I think it's a balance, right? I have no problem. If someone wants to schedule a meeting at 6 a.m., I'll get up and do a meeting at 6 a.m. But at 6 a.m., I'm sound. I usually would go to bed at 3, so I'm not getting up at 6.
I read for so many years, about big winners get up at 6 a.m. And I never liked getting up early, and I couldn't. But now I get up early, and it didn't make me a big winner, okay? I just don't put that much store in those. Those are booba mices. And because Tom has his way that sounds very good to me. Somebody else might have a different way, but I think Rich overgeneralized.
I mean, Dominic, you're an athlete, so you were probably up early all the time, and you probably go to bed early too, right? You're not a guy who stays up 2 o'clock in the morning.
He's got little kids. He's got little kids, I think, right?
Well, I had little kids too. It's just a matter of how, I was a bartender for so long, I still can't get my clock set properly.
Mm.
So it's just like last night I went to bed at 3.
Wow.
I was up at 9.
Yeah.
So
my problem is I get up at 3 and I'm up for an hour and a half. And then if I'm lucky, I can go back to sleep. Okay. You know what? I wanted to ask you something before the show's over. Kara said, she's a recruiter, and she said she loves MetaView. And is it called Meta AI now? Is it the same program? No,
MetaView, just MetaView. MetaView.ai, I believe.
Okay. And she's still using the free. The free only gives you 25 conversations a month. Okay. And the way they advertise it, it works with Zoom, with Google Meet, with Teams and WebEx. But what she says, the
And
big deal,
phones.
that's what she said. It's on her phone. So if she's driving, she can have a phone conversation. She doesn't have to take any notes. And it tells the candidate or the person on the other end that it's being recorded. She doesn't even have to tell them that. But the thing is, it's
It
not
doesn't say it's being recorded. It doesn't say
No?
that.
okay. But it's not a full transcription. It's notes. It takes notes. Is that right?
It does both. It's a full transcription, and then it has different prompts or whatever you want to call them to decide, is this a client intake call? Is this a candidate too long don't read? Is this a candidate who's got a lot? I mean, there's certain things you
It's
can
gonna give you
do.
notes just like Gemini does with its question. There's a question, and then you're the answer.
It's more involved than that because it listens to the entire conversation, and then it has these different call them prompts, call them templates. I don't know what else to call them. That decides, you could decide which one you want to use for that interview or that conversation.
Okay, here's my problem with that. Okay, although she was so enthusiastic, and you have been too, but how can you trust it's going to take the same notes that you would take if you're doing an interview? I mean,
Well, first of all, it takes the entire transcription.
yeah, you know
The
what?
entire
Going through a transcription. I've gone through the transcriptions for my show and some other people's shows, and that's really time consuming. It takes a lot of time to go through a transcription.
Not if you're using AI you can ask it questions like grab this piece, grab that piece. But I will tell you this, for recruiters who are watching this, recruiters who use this, if you're going to do this, make sure you have, like I have a candidate data sheet that I would fill out before AI was around, right? So I make sure I follow the candidate data sheet the same way, right? But it gives me an ability to ask better questions and get more information. And the AI pulls more information out that I could write down quickly when I was using a pen and paper, right? So it's the same thing. Your name, your phone number, your duties and responsibilities. What do you want to be when you grow up? Your educational background. Are you married? How much are you making? What's your bonus? All those questions get asked, except now I'm not taking time to write them down and having to catch up with the guy as he's telling me stuff. All that gets written down so I don't ever miss anything.
You know, those are very uncomplicated questions that you just most of them, except what do you want to be when you grow up, but date, birthday, address, those are very straightforward. But for a more complicated question that your employer wants you, the client wants you to ask, okay, I just wondered, I like to have sort of my own sense of what's going into the notes, not trusting a robot. Maybe it's better.
And again, you can ask the question the same exact way. He is going to say everything, and then you could go to that section of that question and either have AI pull it out for you, or you could write the notes down yourself. Like you say, it's hard to look at the transcription. If you know where each part is based on the questions you asked, it's not hard.
Okay. Anybody else want to talk about MetaView? Anybody use it or anything similar? No.
I was sold on it the very first conversation I had when I was at a Safeway shopping. The candidate called and said, hey, I got stuff moved around. Could you talk now? And I said, yeah, I'll call you right back. I called him on MetaView. I stood in the parking lot doing an interview with this guy, and the notes that it pulled out were amazing. And my client even said, this is awesome. I know you didn't write it.
Oh, really? What did he call you a dummy as well? I know.
Oh, he always calls me a dummy. I've known a guy for a long time. He busted my balls all the time.
Okay. Geez, I had an interesting fall. So you're paying the $50 a month?
Nope. I have, because I was one of the very first adopters, I had a couple affiliate links, so they've paid me like $600, $800 because I've referred them to a bunch of people, and I get 68 conversations a month instead of 25. And what I do, if I use it, I immediately grab the transcription and the notes and stick it into Loxo because it integrates with my applicant tracking system. I don't need to go back and look at the stuff.
Okay. And so it was never on AppSumo? No. Okay. Are there any, I think in the past you've told us there's comparable tools that,
I mean, there's not the way that works. There is a transcription service, what's it called? That you can use, ChatScribe Pro, but that's strictly for transcribing audio or videos. That's all that's for.
what about
MetaView, there's nothing like MetaView that I have found yet, because you can record telephone conversations. I
What
think
about, does
Quill,
Honick have
Quill
that
is the other one. Quill does too. Quill does too. But Fathom doesn't. Rec Run doesn't. What's the one you use? Well, yeah, he's using Fathom. Fathom doesn't do it. Otter doesn't do it. Rev AI doesn't do it. Track AI doesn't do it. Those are all transcription for Google Meet for Teams.
So you
The
think
only
it's
ones
worth
that work on
50,
phone are Quill and MetaView.
you think it's worth 50 a month, right? Sounds like, yeah. Okay. Anybody
The
else?
problem with, can I back up for a second?
Yeah,
The
go
biggest
ahead.
issue is if you don't get the unlimited, if you make a call, right, and the candidate can't talk, or you get disconnected, or he says, "Can I call you back?" That counts as an interview, right? So you can run through them real quick if you're trying to record every conversation, right? So that's the issue with MetaView if you don't pay for it, right? You
Okay, yeah,
stuck
but
with
if you
going out really
pay,
quick.
it's unlimited, right?
Correct.
Okay. Anything else? I think we're at the end of the show. The great David M. Marr up in heaven, as usual. Thank you Dave for coming. Dominic, who had that revelation. For me, I was proven wrong. Donna was proven right. Oh, Dominic's got a show. I didn't tell you about that yet. It's on every Thursday at noon Eastern. Bunch of recruiters, just like here, only more, call in, and it's a much more free-form discussion. Dominic doesn't screen the questions and things like that, right? Dominic, anything I should add to that?
No, that's true. You just
And
get on there and share tips and tricks.
and go to wait a second, YouTube, and is it still Quota Killer? Is that what you put in? Quota Killer?
Yeah, I think so. Let me check.
Yeah, how could it be like that? I don't get it. Okay,
You know, yeah, it is. It is. I'm not.
if you're in a recruiting group on Facebook, he posts it in every group. Okay.
Yeah.
And there we go with Tom with his multiple
Right here.
shows. Go to therecruiterroundtable.com. He's got 3 shows, 2 every week plus 1 extra per month. Anything else you want to add about your shows, Tommy? And they go into in-depth on this tech stuff, okay? That's why they're giving him stuff for free, because he's
Yeah, there's a lot of I think we're gonna do cold calling versus cold emailing Friday, pros and cons of both, and then maybe roll into like a hybrid mix of it, and
Okay.
then
but you've gone a lot of times into in-depth studies of this recruiting tech, right?
yeah, software, lots of softwares, lots of different recruiting software tech, transcription services, applicant tracking systems, contact finders, all that stuff.
Okay, they understand recruiting tech. Okay, thanks everybody.